Carl, what's happening?
Not much, man. I forgot to click the button to join. So I was like, I could see you, but then I'm like, I don't think you can see me. So
Yeah. Hey, everybody in the chat room and Facebook Live and YouTube. My name is Lewis Lee from All Ends Media, and we have a special guest, Carl Anthony from Automoblog. My man. Tell him what's up.
Hey, good to see you, buddy. Hey, what's everybody doing out there in the car universe? Crazy times.
Yeah, it really is, man. We're cooped up in the houses. So I think I'm gonna get some work done now that I'm stuck in the house.
Yeah, right. Honestly, yeah. It's been nice to go for a drive at night. I mean, honestly, because it's about the only thing we can do, really, is to just get out and go for a drive. So this last week here comes Ray. I'll wait till Ray jumps on. Hey, Ray.
Watch out. I'm here.
Oh,
what's up, Ray?
Carl, Lewis, good to see you fellas.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir. You too. Hey, Ray, you know what? Introduce yourself and promote the radio station, man, so people know what's going on.
All right. You have your new face on screen is Ray Guarino, one of the co-hosts of Motormouth Radio here on Long Island. We broadcast on Sunday afternoons and have had both of these fine gentlemen on the show. And we may be broadcasting through Zoom this week from Zoom through a remote board, uploading it from a outside location to the college and then out terrestrially. So it's going to be quite an ordeal, but we do that. And then of course, website motormouthradio.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and of course on Instagram, Joe's favorite, Real_. Motormouth Radio. Call no.
Now Motormouth Radio is actually a call-in show where you could call in and get information on how to fix stuff or how to break stuff or whatever. So check him out on Sundays.
And we tell people how to break it better than we can tell them how to fix it.
Right.
All knows that.
Yeah. We do a lot of air guitar on the show. Yeah, a lot of air guitar. So, well, Joe, I should mention, Joe taught me everything I know about air guitar and air drums, and we're learning air flute. So Joe is a master.
Right.
There's a lot of different instruments Joe can play.
And now we have Chris back, my co-host that I started doing the show with. Chris started the show, and he's back now in Joe's absence. And Chris plays a mean cowbell and actually a harmonica. So he does the cowboy thing. Yeah.
Ray, I got to laugh, and for the people out there who are listening, and just to tell you how the car universe works and just the world of car media, is that sometimes everything happens at the last minute. So Ray, I always love the last minute emails from you. Here they come Friday night, Saturday afternoon. Hey, Carl, we got an open spot. So I'm always on my phone. I'm like, oh, I got you, buddy. It's no worries at all. So that's just how it is when you do this job.
Yeah. And not everybody understands that. I'm very glad that you do, because I've done that with like Lewis, you've done it too. I mean, booking guests is one of the hardest things just for scheduling. And so many people like, oh, that's soon? No, I got something. I'm like, all right, if you got something to do, that's fine. No drama. Just,
the auto industry is so demanding on every aspect. It's hard to really pin people down. To be able to take an hour, to come on the show. So man, it could be rough.
Right.
Ray, I enjoyed the episode. See, it's now 2 weeks ago, where you went through the history of Motormouth Radio, and I thought that was really cool. The clandestine broadcast.
I'll tell you where we were. We were at Kim's house. Kim Tracy, who follows us, because she had the remote broadcast equipment there. So Rob Leonard did his show first. Then I came in and did my show, and then Kim did hers afterwards. And that was her dogs in the background. But I'll tell you the secret, and this is, anybody who's ever done radio will understand it. Chris couldn't connect yet. He was in Connecticut. He was remotely connecting by phone. He couldn't get in on his channel. And Rob was really no help to me at all. So basically, I was faced with a live mic and what to say. Yeah. So, okay, let's give you the history of the show. It's one of those go-to. It's like with a guest. We talked about this, Lewis. Whenever we have if you ever have a guest, either on this show or a video show or on a radio show, and you just kind of run out of things to say, or the guest runs out of things to say, one of my go-to things has always been, "Hey, what did you drive in high school?"
Yeah.
And that usually lights people up. It just gives them that invigoration that they lost, So,
one of mine is, what do you like to drive, stick or automatic?
Right. You have to have some go-to questions in your pocket that you can use. They don't always work, and I could compile a bunch of stories about guests that we just like on a commercial break. It was flat, and then you just talk to the guy in a commercial break. We were able to do that with our old studio. And then they would come back on a whole nother topic. Joel Rosen from Motion was one. He was one of the worst interviews we had. The guy was so stoic and he ever wants to let out an old secret, And on the commercial, he said, he goes, "Hey, you guys are from Brooklyn, right?" And I said, "No, Chris actually was raised and was living in Brooklyn." I said, "No, I'm from Long Island. I live by Motion." So he says, "Yeah, I lived in Brooklyn, went to high school." Chris and him went to the same high school, obviously like 30 years apart. But then they started talking about pizzerias and bagel shops, and Joel started waxing philosophic. And we had to say, "Okay, listen, we got to go back live, Joel. Hold on, stop." And we came back live, and he just continued on with this whole Brooklyn thing. But he became such a great guest because now the guy actually had a personality,
Right.
Yeah.
So, Carl, what's going on in your life? I mean, what's the good stuff?
Yeah, so we're hammering away with Automoblog. Thank you, everybody, for following and just reading the site and keeping up on the Twitter page. All of our team is remote anyway, so we are spread out all over. So the work, our team works at a distance anyway. So, but we've been staying up on top of some of the stuff the automotive industry has been doing with the coronavirus. On top of that, and Ray, we talked about this a little bit. We have just really tried to flood our Twitter page with just cool car stuff. We want to update the news on what's going on with the automotive industry, but I kind of get a sense right now people just need to embrace things that they love, and one of those things is cars. So we have really been trying to just, whether that's putting cool car photos up or cool videos up that, if people feel like they're going stir crazy inside, that they can at least go to our Twitter page and, see some cool cars to kind of get their mind off of things. So,
yeah.
But other than that, we're really, again, our ownership guides are the big thing. So we're really trying to dial, because cars are getting more expensive. Monthly payments are higher than they've ever been. There was a study last year. Cox Automotive did the study. The average monthly payment now for a new car is $530, about 10% of the average U.S. household income.
Not on my cars, it's not.
Right.
Yeah, me either.
So
that's terrible.
Yeah. It's just as those monthly payments climb higher, we start to see more people go, "You know what? I've got this car now. It's running pretty good. It's maybe got 40, 50,000 miles on it. I'd like to try to stretch it. I'd like to see how many miles I can get out of it." So we're trying to do more guides like that on here's how to keep it running. Here's what you can do maybe to get an aftermarket warranty to save money. Here's some comparisons on aftermarket warranty companies. So again, for us, it's, we definitely cover the news, the trends, and the technology, but we want to help existing car owners at the same time. So, and post some cool stuff and be on cool shows like this as well.
And Carl, one of the great articles you guys have up there now is car sharing better than owning a car?
Right.
That's a great article, as well as the other one that we kind of each did our own version of should you buy car parts online?
Right.
Again, people always look for help for purchasing a car and, what to buy or the payments. But then, you're covering, like we try to cover, the other side of the story. Like once you have it, now what are you going to do with it?
Yes. Right.
Go on. I'm sorry.
No, this car parts online, Ray, this is a completely foreign concept to me. Because I've never bought anything online. I mean, ever, because I'm just not from that generation. But my partner in Automoblog, Chris Burdick, and we're the same age. He shops online. It's just very common for him. So we we had got to talking one day, and I'm like, you know what, for auto parts, like something that precise, I would want to go in, I'd want to talk to somebody, but that's how we did it growing up. Like where I grew up, all the farmers worked at the auto parts store at night to make extra money, to help make ends meet. So you knew those guys, like, because they were on the farm fixing trucks and tractors. So you knew, oh, hey, I got a power steering pump making noise, for my Ford Ranger pickup, what do I do? Is this the right pump? A lot of those guys had done those jobs out in their Morton buildings. So, I could not fathom.
What kind of building was that?
Morton building.
I never heard that term.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I don't know what that is.
So a Morton building is basically like a large enclosure that a lot of Iowa farmers use them. You'll see them in the Midwest, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota.
Oh, is it the metal like tubes?
Yes.
Half a tube? Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't know what they were called. Yeah, we have them here too.
Yep. So they're Morton buildings, and so farmers would store their tractors and their trucks and their combines and all their equipment out there. There's a picture of what they look like. But a lot of the guys that I grew up with, so like that I went to high school with and middle school with, their dads were farmers. They worked at the auto. We had an O'Reilly's in town. We had another store called Big A Auto Parts. It was a local store. But those guys worked there at night, and they would never steer you wrong. So in my world, I'm like, oh no, I would never buy car parts online. I would want to go in. I'd want to talk to somebody. And then when I worked at the dealership, when I was a service advisor at the dealership, I knew all the guys in the parts department. So if we ever had a question, I knew, hey guys, what are we looking at? Can we get the manual out? Can we put the VIN number in the computer? But for Chris, it's a completely different world. He'll buy on Amazon or Car ID or Parts Geek or one of those sites. And so we got our heads together. We said, look, this is probably a common question people have. Like, is it safe to buy car parts online? Everybody we talked to was like, oh, I got a killer deal on Amazon. I got Christmas presents on Amazon. I got a killer deal. So we sat down and we said, yeah, but does that really apply to auto parts? Like, do those same great deal apply to auto parts? And then what about counterfeit parts, and how do you recognize that? So it became this whole thing. And then we ended up putting out the article a couple weeks ago.
I'll tell you, I do buy auto parts. I just got a set of speakers today online that I bought, but and I've made mistakes. Like with Rock, I had to really learn to slow my roll, because on Rock's listings are so good. You got to look, is it for the front or the rear, or is it they give you like specificities in their description, and I missed it once and ordered the wrong stuff. I'm like, damn it, it was totally my fault. But and I hate not using my local guy, but sometimes they can't get it, and they've told me, yeah, go to Rock Auto.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you,
price difference too.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Another thing, we had a guy years ago from K&N Filters on the show, and it's probably about 6 or 8 years ago. There was a big proliferation of bogus scam parts, and K&N was one of them. MSD was another that was getting scammed like crazy. Some Holley stuff, and the reboxed stuff looked just like the original. They were really ripping it off to the T.
Right.
So I had said to him on the show, I said, I have a K&N in a couple of my cars, and one of them, as I washed it, I do it every year, I noticed the pleats looked a little funny. Something just didn't look right. And he says to me, can you send me a picture? Oh, yeah, sure. So that day I sent him some pictures of the thing. That's a bogus filter. And I said, you know what? I've had this in the car for like 3 years. I bought it at Pep Boys in a K&N box. He says, and I didn't have the box anymore, but he says, send it back to me and I'll send you another one. I'll send you a real one. And I said, yeah, it's like, like a $50, $60 filter.
Yeah.
He said, we'd rather take the hit and put the right part in someone's hands than have a bogus one out there with our name on it. And that was what they were looking at. And they sent me a brand new filter. So,
I'm starting to see that companies are starting to do that more, customer service, because it got bad for a while where they didn't care, about you at all.
Right. It always has, and it always will make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Now, some people. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's something to be said about holding the part, but then again, there's something to be said about the money that you can save online, and that there's a lot of reputable sellers. So with this article, we just tried to merge the two, basically to give people reassurance that, yep, you can buy online, just do your homework. But if you've got a local auto parts store in your neighborhood you've been going to for years, just keep doing that, because they'll, if they've never steered you wrong, then you're fine.
I mean, but to hold a set of Wagner TQ brake pads in your hand, or to know what they're like in your hand and order them, just order them like you know what you're going to get. As long as you get the right thing, it's it's not bogus. You know what you're going to get.
Right.
Like I ordered some LED lights, and they came in. They were pretty nice, but they just wasn't. It didn't seem right. You know what I mean? So I talked to Radiance Lights, Mitch, and he was like, "Oh man, those lights are junk. They're going to burn out on you." So he redid all. He sent all my stuff, new stuff. But like you said, it's a lot of research and knowing what you're getting.
See, but that's the thing, Lewis. That's the area where, with LEDs specifically, there's so many knockoffs and so many off-brand parts out there. And the guy like Mitch is from Radiance Lighting, Carl. The guy's fantastic. He's using top line stuff. He's like my buddy at CE Auto Electric. They use nothing but the best, and you'll pay for that, but you're getting nothing but the best. Whereas the Chinese stuff or whatever the knockoff stuff is, you're going to get that's very, very cheap. Yeah, if you need it for a one-shot deal or just to get you by, fine. Otherwise,
it was a big difference. I sent my headlight out to him on my bike. And when it came back, and I compared the two lights, and it was like I had three lights from him. I had one light, but it was like three lights on compared to the other one I had.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think they. I'd like to see a tariff about with that in mind. Keep the bogus stuff or the really crap stuff out. But I don't know. There's so much of it.
Well, and that's when we started researching the article. The one thing that we got, I guess, is if you're looking online, there's that wave of fear of, am I getting a right part? And I think sometimes when we talk about counterfeit, you think, oh, that's a purse or a wallet. That's a Gucci thing. That's a fashion thing. But then you don't start thinking. We started thinking about, okay, well, what if we got faulty spark plugs? What if we got faulty body panels? Like what if we got faulty stuff could really do some damage, like what if we, if you just didn't know what to look for. So I still feel like I'm an in-person guy because I feel like it's more genuine. But again, we found we listed them at the end of that article. There's a lot of reputable. Car ID is a reputable one. Richard Reyna, who's one of their product training director, he writes for us. He's our resident expert on the aftermarket car and at the aftermarket and then the muscle car market and things like that. So, but no, I don't know. But like I said, Ray and Lewis, we sat down and we started talking this out. Like, okay, if I'm going to shop online, what do you look for? But one thing that may find comfort to people is if you're a O'Reilly guys, or you're an Advanced Auto Parts guy, or you're an AutoZone guy, a lot of those brick and mortar stores have online shops as well. So that was another thing we found in our research that, so even then you can still shop online, but you can take advantage because sometimes they'll offer like a lower price for you. Like you might be shopping online, but you can pick it up at your local store, but your local store might have a lower price than online. So they automatically will honor the lower price. So there are some workarounds that you can do, so you're not just going to, any random site. So,
right.
But
Here's
it took us a long research that.
Yeah, I bet. Here's another twist to all this. I order so much stuff on Amazon. Like the guy's coming 3 times a week. I order toilet paper or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So in my mind, everything is safe. You know what I mean? So I order. Right. If I need a part, I'm like, okay, I need that part. Boom, I order it, or something for my leather, or what I mean. It's like natural to me now to order. So every once in a while, I'll get jammed up where I order the wrong stuff. I'm like, oh man, I should have researched a little more, but. I use my PayPal card, so everything is secure. I'm telling you, PayPal. If somebody rips you off, PayPal will have your money back the next day.
Right.
Yeah, I actually got myself an Amazon Visa card.
Yeah.
So I use that.
Amazon is pretty quick too.
But
when you If you send something back to Amazon, when you take it to the post office, as soon as they scan it, before you get to the parking lot, your money's back in your account.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing, I like Amazon because they guarantee if it's an Amazon, guaranteed vendor, they stand behind it. And I've had a few times where I had to make a return and no drama, boy, no problem whatsoever.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
great. Very nice.
They don't play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things we said, check the sellers, check the reviews, always check the reviews. Cars.com actually has a dealership and salespeople evaluation tool, believe it or not. So you can actually search by your area and you can pull up reviews on dealerships in your area. So we've given that advice to people when they're about to buy a car. We say, always check the reviews of the dealership, check the reviews of the staff, and check the reviews of the service department, because you're probably going to be taking that car back there for oil changes and routine maintenance. So, we said the same thing here. Seller reviews, make sure you look at the seller reviews. The Amazon's Choice is a good one too. And Ray, I think that's what you're talking about. That's that where Amazon will stand behind it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or Amazon Verified, I think, has a check mark.
Yes,
like that. Yeah.
yes, that's it. So you should be, if you're buying auto parts online, based on our research, you should be okay to do that, take advantage of the savings. And a lot of times you do. I mean, we have some comparison screenshots in that article. And I think out of the 4 or 5 that we have, Amazon came ahead in 4 of the 5. As far as price goes,
Right.
There was only one other. There was a set of brake pads I think we could get less expensive from CarQuest, but other than that, Amazon. And we did an intake system for a Honda, and then we did a like silly stuff like an oil filter for a Ford Mustang, like more expensive to like a $7 or $8 part, and Amazon was ahead every time. So,
I don't want to sound like a commercial for Amazon. That's what.
No.
But you can even buy the tools to install the parts on Amazon and get a great deal. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
ridiculous.
kind of crazy.
That is.
They give it right to you next to the part.
But that's the business model that they're working on, and they are succeeding. They're doing but they're standing behind it, which is of course paramount. They don't stand behind it; it falls. It's house of cards.
I don't know if you noticed, if you scroll down, they'll have the other parts that go with it, the other tools, and they add up the price and everything, and you just hit the button and order everything.
They'll be like, well, other people ordered this when they got this. Like, what they get.
And they also tell you if it fits your car, if it gives you a green box.
See, now that's where I see that I'll tell you, that's where you get in trouble. If you have a car like me or Terry like you, a car that doesn't have the engine and transmission in it that it came with, now you got to put in the year of the engine and transmission. You got to remember to do that, because otherwise, the search engine's only as good as the data that populates it, and they can't account for guys like us.
Well, what happens is we got to know exactly which part, and pretty much what Like, matter of fact, I got to get an alternator for Trailblazer. It's the DR44.
Okay.
For out of a 2007, I think it's an Escalade or either like some type of cargo truck, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, listen. I want to talk about Terry's video here of the start of the Trailblazer. Listen, man.
Okay, what is this video?
truck-
I haven't seen this. So okay.
Oh, listen, man.
First of all, I got to introduce myself to Carl. First of all, what's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Yeah.
Eric,
how you doing, Carl? Man,
Good,
nice to meet you.
Gary. Yeah, good to see you. Nice to meet you.
All right, go ahead. Leslie.
give you a drum roll intro.
All right. This is Coverman 66, right?
Yeah,
Oh, he got his sticks out too. So listen, he
that's
put
funny.
together a Trailblazer over the last year and a half, 2 years, I guess. What, 2 years?
I was
And-
about a year and a half. Yeah, I blew it. You know what happens? A lot of people ask me why it took so long, is because when you start putting parts together and that never were meant to go on this truck, it takes a little. And then when you say, I thought I want this part, and then you say, okay, fine, no, I want to go to a different part. So you trying parts out, and you had companies giving me parts, and I was just like, okay, so that's the reason why it took so long. Now, if I was just replacing that transmission, it would have took me like maybe a week.
Yeah, but you did it right, and you got a monster, man. When he started this truck up, I'm like, oh, listen at it. Sound like a Corvette sitting in there, right? So now I was like, man, I gotta put the LS in the caddy, because man, I'm telling you, I was bubbling.
I was racing a Porsche. This is like a year and a half ago. I have a Trailblazer SS. I was racing a Porsche, and I blew my transmission. Now, a lot of people say the Trailblazer SS transmissions are bad but I got 140,000 miles off of the original transmission, so I can't really complain.
Yeah,
And it's it's an all-wheel drive Trailblazer. All right. So once I blew the transmission, I went to Performa Built. They gave me a serious transmission to hold the power, right? And I figured if I'm going to go this far, I might as well put CNC ported heads, Brian Tooley cam.
Sure.
I wasn't going to put the supercharge at that point. I was going to go with the L92 intake. I got the truck all together, everything like that. Got it all together, the transmission back in.
Sure.
Realized the front diff had blew. Now I had a decision to make. Okay, do I make this truck a rear-wheel drive truck and hook it up the way I want to hook it up? Or do I put it back or try to, because the weakest link on them Trailblazers is that front diff.
Right.
And I searched and I couldn't find anyone that can make that thing really handle like 600 horsepower or more. So I was like, it's got to go. So at that point, that's when I introduced the headers along with everything else and in a LSA blower. And so here we are today. And I had it last week.
So there's a video of you starting this up.
Yeah.
Put it in the chat room.
You go up on YouTube.
Can you drop that in the chat room?
Yeah.
Yep, I will do it right now.
Yeah, I got to see this. This is.
Oh man, it's a beast. So Terry, I hear that you have an extra LS motor sitting around. So we might have to do some negotiating.
Well, I can get some 6.0s now. Now here's the thing.
Oh, Nelson has one.
Huh?
Nelson has a couple, I think.
Nelson has a couple, and I have a couple of Ed Gomez who's going to be tuning, who's going to finish doing the tune. See, we also introduced the remote tune. That's what that was. We did a, what's it called? I told him matter of fact, we need to get this cat on. I told him what the truck has, and he was like, no, I don't need to know that. He hooked into my computer. We didn't even start the truck up, and he saw what was going on, and he was just like, okay, here you go. When you're ready to start the truck up. And then what's it called? So now what we're doing is we're going through a series of tuning. So he'll tell me, like you got to have HP tuners. He'll tell me, get the truck up to about 40 miles an hour. He'll look at the tables and be like, okay, this needs a little bit more fuel here, maybe retard the timing back a little, whatever. And then he'll send me the tune again. I put it to my computer. Okay, now get it to about 80 miles an hour. Right now, I'm at the point where he's like, put your foot in it, break loose. So this is fun. It's all tune. And this is good for if you don't have a trailer to tow your car up there. And now I could drive my truck to the dyno, to his shop and get a dyno tune. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty good solution. Like now, if I didn't care about the numbers, and I really don't care about the numbers, I could just drive it the way it is because he saw what's going on and he's like, the truck is set. But if you really want to get it dialed in and tuned, mm-hmm. you got to bring it to me, and we got to put it in the dyno, and I'm cool with that.
And where is he, Terry, exactly?
He's up in Connecticut. I'm not too far. I don't think he's too far from Wayne Garini.
Okay.
He's not too far. So that's where we're going now. We're gonna do the dyno tune.
So Terry, have you always been a Chevy? Have you always been a Chevy man, a GM man? I
love all cars. If I was a Ford guy, I will tell you, Mustang, 69 and 70 Mustang would be my car.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And I would definitely be, if I was a Mustang person, I would be a Torino guy. I like the Torinos.
Just don't ask him what his favorite Tri-5 Chevy is.
It's the next question.
I love all cars. I love all cars. I had Mopars. I had the most popular car I had. I had about maybe 30 or 40 second-gen Camaros. Probably about 30.
Hey,
that's
Terry,
my car. If I was
Terry, what did you drive in high school, Terry?
Yeah.
75 Camaro.
See how easy it works?
75 Camaro. Yeah.
What color? What color, Terry?
It was brown with a beige roof, with a brown vinyl roof, and it was a 350 with a 2-barrel. And I changed over to a 4-barrel. The first thing, of course, back in the day, I got the leaf springs. I had to get the shackles, raised it up and everything. And that was where I cut my teeth on cars. Right. Actually, I cut my teeth on cars back when I was when I used to go to South Carolina to visit, my family. School vacation. You're out for a couple of months. My parents were shipping my sister off to South Carolina to hang out with our family. And my uncle was down there, and he was a big car guy. Now you got to remember, back in the day, these cars that they're going for $200,000, like the GTOs, Chevelle, Nova SSs. This man had them in his yard because they were plentiful. They were going for like $400 or $500 back at the time. And so now here I am, 11 years old, driving these cars in the dirt roads of South Carolina.
Wow.
11 years old. Like my uncle's like, go to the store and get some cigarettes for me. I'm like, I'm not walking down. This is the country mile, man. I'm not going down here.
Yeah. And a pint of Old Harper while you're at it.
70 Grand Prix,
Yeah.
So with the swivel seats and everything like that. He had a couple of Grand Ams. So, but again, these cars were nothing,
Yep.
So Terry, was that the moment that you became a car guy? I mean, was that a pivotal moment for you? Because that seems like that would be
a pivotal moment. I think that when the first car I could remember seeing when I was a little kid was, now that I didn't know what it was back then, but the first car that I really was like, wow, blew my mind. It was a Mopar. It was a 74 Roadrunner. Roadrunner. Was Daisy Duke. Let's see. She was like, that was like a 7. It was the one with the I think it was 74. It had the stripe that went from the one fender up around the roof and back down the other side of the fender. It was like
Series, yeah.
It was like cut. And
yeah.
And I remember seeing that one because I used to live in the Bronx. And I remember seeing that on the Cross Bronx Expressway. And I was on the 10th floor, but you heard this car coming.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I mean, I was just like, wow. It just blew my mind. And
Carl, what was your car that set you up for cars?
Oh man, this is an excellent question. I probably, to be honest with you, the Mustang.
Ooh.
As quintessential American as that is. So in the mid 90s, there was the Ford Mustang, the Cobra, SVT, Special Vehicles Team.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I was standing outside of school with my backpack. And it just, a guy drove by in a red one, and it was a convertible. And I didn't know anything about cars, but I was like, wow, that car is awesome. It was red. It was a convertible. It sounded cool. It was late. It was like April or May. So the weather was fairly decent out. So he had the top down. It was after school one day. And ever since then, like I kind of got hooked on like Ford for whatever reason. So I used to remember, like, I'd pay attention to all the Ford commercials that were on TV at the time. So, like, Northland Ford dealers, right, was a big thing, and they had the F-150s. And then right about that time, the Dodge Viper came on. And then, and Ray, we had talked about this a while ago, but the Dodge Viper, then everybody in my class, we went nuts over the Dodge Viper. And again, because I don't know why, but I would pay attention to, because TV was we had 3 channels on TV. It was the only entertainment we had in rural Iowa, but I'd pay attention to the car commercials. And Dodge at the time, every Dodge commercial had a red. Like every car was red. So the Viper would come out, and it was Edward Herman, the actor, voiced the commercial. And it was like, we're bold and we're the new Dodge. And there was the Viper and the Stratus and the Avenger. And it was all red.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and I was a kid. I didn't know anything about cars, but I'm like, wow, red and fast. And even the neon looked fast. So it kind of started then and just kind of sort of, I don't know, just kind of started, kind of growing from there. And then I kind of got more involved in the sort of the business side. I was at dealerships. I sold cars. I was in the service department, and then, later when I settled here in Detroit, I became a dealer trainer and a product trainer and, kind of worked, more on the national scene. And then I kind of, and then we got into Automoblog and the rest is history. And now, Terry, I'm like you, where I'm like, I like everything that's out there. Honestly, like I love the big 3. I love the Mopar stuff, obviously, but I like the Italian cars. I like the Maseratis. I like the Fiats. I like the Alfa Romeo. I love the Porsche 911. You know what I mean? Like, and on we go.
Even these new cars that are coming out, like not new, but the kids, they got these this cult following with the Hondas, and
Yes.
you gotta respect them. And you know, like I do like some foreign cars. I like the Toyota. What was it called? The Celica GT. I love that car.
Yeah.
Love that car.
The
You know,
Supra came back here recently.
It's a beast too.
Yeah.
That Supra's a monster.
Speaking of the Automobile Blog Book Garage, which is another
Yes.
great topic, I just got this yesterday,
Nice.
and it's red.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Excellent
a
book.
publication right there. I love that thing.
Okay, so Ray, tell us
Perfect.
yours.
My what?
What was your car that got you juiced up?
Geez, you know, I started at a young age because I had an older brother, 10 years older than me. So I used to be able to like hand him tools, and when he was working on his 63 Corvette and 57 Chevy and the 63 Impala. And I just kind of had this innate thing. Like I just loved cars and lawnmowers and anything with a motor.
Yeah.
But down the block, there's a couple turning points. One of them was I'd walk home from school every day, and this is when I was really young. I had to be I was in grade school, so I was probably about 8 or 10. And this guy must have been coming home from work every day at the same time, because he would get stuck at the crossing where I had to cross, and the timing was right, and he must have hated it. Like, ah, damn, school is getting out again, all these stupid kids. But the guy was driving. It was probably a primered 55 Chevy. It rode high in the front, no front bumper, and the thing was cammed, and it was just sitting there idling at about like 1,800 RPM. I remember he had I didn't know at the time, but he must have had a heavy duty flasher in there because his directional would flash really fast. So there's this car sitting there like growling at the light, just idling, and the flash is flashing. It's got these teeth of a grill, and I had to walk in front of it every day. It was like Christine. I was like, please don't bite me. I was like, please don't bite me. But if you want to rub against me, like it was just like it was. Yeah. I was like drawn to this car, even though it's scared the living hell out of me. And maybe that's why I still love 55s to this day. I don't know.
Yeah.
We got to ask Lewis. What was yours, buddy? Lewis had some nice cars.
Yeah,
man.
Lewis.
Well, you know, in the 70s, there were a lot of TV shows with cars. You had Bullet. You had Vegas. Remember Vegas?
Dan Tanner.
Dan Tanner, right?
Yeah, he had that Thunderbird. And from when that show came on, I've always wanted to build a house that you could drive your car into and park behind the couch. You know what I mean? So
well, you're getting there because you're moving enough. So.
Yeah, man, this dude drove up in the house.
There's still time.
Yeah, so like you guys, I like anything, man. Anything you put gas in, you know. Right. It could be, you know, any car. I like them all.
Yeah,
you know. And when I was a kid, man, on my street we battled with bicycles, big wheels. Like I was the first dude on the street that had a green machine. You know, the ones with the arms. Yeah. Man, look, when I got that, man, I was the king of the block for a minute.
Nah, you had a green machine. You were William. You were Big William.
Yeah, man. Right. So then my dad bought me a bike, a 10-speed for Christmas, and I let one of my friends ride it, and he rode out in the street, got hit by a car.
Oh,
wrecked my bike. Right, it was done. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a new bike. You know, my dad was like, oh, don't worry about it. Told my friend's parents, don't worry about it. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm out of a bike.
Yeah.
So about a month later, he goes, come on, we're going to get a bike. So he takes me and buys me a motorcycle.
Oh.
I'm 8 years old, right?
Jeez.
On a Honda 50.
Nice.
And I'm really the king in the block now, man. Because I'm the only dude, you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah.
So man, it's been in my blood, man.
Right.
Gas, anything you put gas
you know,
on.
It's funny because what's the name? McGuire, Old Man McGuire. He always says it on his show, you know, like being built with a car gene.
Yeah.
And he is so right about that. And you know, like you say, Lewis. I mean, like I guess it even started early with the Hot Wheels track, man. I mean, like if you touch my Hot Wheels cars when I was like 4 years old,
it's gone.
You get beaten, man. But I noticed that Carl got some Hot Wheels back behind you know. Yeah.
You know, you can't see behind here. I got a whole slew of Hot Wheels.
Ray, we know you do.
Don't have me go upstairs and get the '69 Camaro. Don't.
Listen, Carl. Ray has.
I got handfuls of them.
Oh, that's awesome. See, you never grow out of it.
No.
55 Nomad right there.
Wow.
Very
Yeah, it is.
cool.
And I'm just grabbing randomly.
Yes.
It's got a GTO over. That's the Ray Bestos GTO that they gave away.
You know
But I
what? I'm
didn't
gonna
win.
blow you guys' mind. Hold on a sec. I'll be right back.
See,
gotta get-
I can't even show you
What?
mine because they're still packed up. I just moved into this house. I don't even know where they're at.
So, yeah, I mean, I've got all the Hot Wheels. They go all the way down. I've got them organized as best I can by manufacturer, and then all my auto show badges are here when I toured the auto
Nice.
show circuit. But it's funny because my wife and I are both very big car people, and so we'll go grocery shopping, and Kroger and Meyer here, they have a huge selection of Hot Wheels cars. And I don't know if that's just because we're in the Detroit area or it's just where we're at. But man, we'll blow like a half hour going through every one. And it's like one of those moments where you realize you're a car person when you've long grown up. But yet you're at the grocery store, but you got to spend a half hour before you can get your groceries going through the Hot Wheels cars. So
Make
it's
sure
just,
they didn't slip something in there.
yeah, and they do. And man, we'll go through every row, man. So
That's
we'll
cool.
come home with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 usually per trip. So
I could go over to my cabinet and take out my Aurora and AFX cars. We can get into those too.
oh yeah.
It's another trip through time, man. Cool stuff.
See, my problem is I have too many hobbies. I like
Yeah.
I like everything: computers, guns. So like every year or so, I'll get into something else. So now I'm buying all this.
You like old radios too? Because
Yeah.
I play with those too.
Listen, one year I got into the little homies, the little plastic figures. Like, have you ever seen them? They're called
Yes.
homies.
Yeah.
I don't
And
know.
they're like the low rider life homies.
Okay.
And they have cars, they have all the Spanish, the Mexican vibe. It's all low rider California stuff, and they're called homies. And they only sold them in bubblegum machines. So
Right.
at one time, me and my wife were going all over the city hitting these bubblegum machines so I can get the whole set.
Right.
And there's probably I don't know 300-400 of them, and I about got them.
All right. I'll admit I have them upstairs, but I have all the Beavis and Butthead cards that came out of they were in vending machines back, and I had to get them. I'm going from supermarket to supermarket. Like,
Yeah.
Give me another quarter. Give me another. Yeah, gotta have it.
Yeah,
I couldn't find it. I couldn't find them. But what I was going to show you was my very first Hot Wheel car I've gotten. I still have it. It was the Red Line Hot Wheels. You remember those?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the 60. It was a '67 Camaro with the engine sticking about the hood. I was 68. It didn't have a wing window. Sorry.
Okay.
And I couldn't find it. It's up in. I think I put it in the attic. I'm not going to go up there.
I got the muscle machines upstairs too.
Muscle
Yeah,
machine.
Yeah.
And I definitely recognize those muscle machines. I think I got
Muscle
a few of
machines,
those
yeah.
around here.
See, that's how. See, a lot of people don't know. That's how I got my first 69, my 69 Camaro. That's how I got my LS engine in there, because I sold my whole AFX Tyco collection.
Nice.
Wow.
I sold that for, I think, $10,000.
Really?
Nice.
You know what happened when I was younger? Like my parents would bring me an AFX or Tyco
I gotta
car.
share what Brian just.
There we go. And what I would do is, if I had it out,
I keep getting that freaking glare. I think it's the light up there that does it.
Yeah.
It's a 55 Chevy. It's beautiful.
if I had the car out of, because I had, if I had duplicates, I would put it in my closet and forget about it.
Yeah.
So now I have about maybe 200 of these cars in original blister packs.
Terry, if I can expand
no
on
problem.
that, I want to expand on that into just insert hobby here, because all the hobbies that I have, which we share many of, either a swap meet, and I'll come home like, oh yeah, I got this score, I got a gauge or another set of whatever, and like then I'll find that I have 3 more. Like, oh, now I got 4. It's like, so now like the running joke about my good buddy at the swap meets is like, I'll pick something up and he's like, yeah, how many you got at home? Like, I don't think I have any. He was like, yeah, it means you have at least 3. So and he's probably right.
All right, here's a poster of all the homies.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It looks like
And
a California prison.
Listen, they made a plastic figure of all of these. This is like a poster of all of the things.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, man, I'm all over the place, pushing kids out of the way, getting into the bubblegum machine. Like, get out of here! I need that one.
Lewis is making kids cry. And
All right,
Yeah.
Someone please get this big, huge 6'7" kid out of here.
Yeah, get him out of here. Somebody call security.
Right.
Well, that's it. Macco Man Brian is just sending me another pic. I'm like, yeah, you're just another big kid. We're all just big kids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
That's just it.
kids with a checkbook.
Yeah. Well,
And your cars get bigger. I mean, that's just all there is. And it's, I spent quite a bit of time on the auto show with Chrysler, and that was an incredible opportunity, and I'm thankful for it. But when we had the whole lineup, I primarily did Charger, Challenger. Those are primarily my cars, but we knew the whole lineup just in case people would ask. But we would go out on these drive courses with consumers, and we would get older guys this was in 2017, so I'll call it the new Charger and Challenger, but at the time it was new. It's, and for all intents and purposes it is anyway. These guys we'd get done, I'd be in the passenger seat, we'd get done going on a drive through a course that we had set up at the auto show, and these guys would go, man, you know what, seeing this Challenger, seeing this Charger, it just takes me back. And it was something, man. They would go right back. And Ray, it's just like you said, they'd go right back to high school. Yeah. They'd go right to this entire conversation. They'd go right back to the first car that they had, or the first car that they had a poster of, or the first car that their uncle had that they worked on, or that their dad bought and they fell in love with. And you know what? The thing is, though, is that I saw that with Charger, Challenger, but I've seen that with the new Mustang and Camaro. The guys do the same thing. It's incredible, and it's like they go right back there just instantly. And I don't, and I think it, like with the Challenger, it was the styling. They'd see the front end and they go, that takes me back. All of a sudden.
Okay, here's a question. Here's a question. Which throwback car do you think is the closest to the old car?
Challenger 100%.
I would say Challenger myself.
The Mustang, when the Mustang first came out with that redo, I saw 67, 68 Mustang, it hit me like a brick.
But I think that Challenger really hit it close.
Yeah,
100%.
Put them together. Let me divert a little bit here and ask you guys this, because I'll take my Pontiac out and I'll be in the gas station, and it happens a lot. Almost every time I take it out and gas it up, guys will, there'll be a guy next to me who's maybe even older than me, and be like, "Hey, GTO," like, yeah. He's like, "Wow, 66." Like, no, it's a 65. Hey, you get the 396 in there? Like, no, I put a 4. Guys give you, they have the wrong information. So, do you guys hit them with the hammer and slam them down, or do you kind of go along with it and just hope to be done with it? What tactics do you use?
Because I get that a lot myself.
Sure you do with the Chevelle and the Camaro. Yeah.
The 69 Camaro, yeah. Depends on the person.
Yeah.
If he's a nice older gentleman or something like that, then I'll be yeah, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a 327 in it.
Because I actually had a guy, he's in tears because it was with the Chevelle. I was driving the Chevelle, and I stopped at the auto parts store, and there was a bar or something like that. He wasn't drunk. I thought he was, but he was just an older man, and the car brought him back to, I think his son might have had one, and his son's no longer. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
He was tearing to the point where he was just like, "I want to." He thanked me for bringing this car around.
Wow,
dude, get in. We're going for
stick him in the seat, go for a ride.
Me and you,
right.
So the car's a beautiful thing because it brings you back to a time, that I could not imagine. I'm just, what this guy must have gone through,
right?
Because he just loved that car, and
cars and music. Cars and music brings back memories.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's also for the new kids too, because I remember I had my 69 Camaro, and there's an ice cream place right up the street from me. And my 69 Camaro, I mean, it's got the LS engine, 6-speed and all that, but there's no paint on it. I mean, it's It's in primer, but I put the clear coat over it. You know, because I don't want to be that guy for now. I don't know if I want to paint it, whatever, but I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh my God, get away from my paint, my car, whatever. So I pull up in this ice cream place. Now you got Ferraris and Porsches laid up.
Okay.
Yeah, with the 69 Camaro. and
no paint.
with no paint, you know. And kid walks up, you know, with his mother, and he goes, Ma, look, it's a race car. And I didn't know who he's looking at my Camaro, right? And I'm just like, you know, and the mother's like, no, don't touch the car, don't touch the car. And I was like, open that door, let that kid sit in the car.
Yeah.
Open the door, let the kid sit in the car. And the guy who has a Ferrari, he was just like, I paid over $150,000 for my car.
Yeah. Meanwhile, it was like an F40 to your right and like a Diablo to your left, and the kid like, looking at it.
That's what he says. He says, I only imagine you probably built it, did you? I said, yeah. And he goes,
proud of it.
yeah. He goes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Built, not bought. It's like you said, Ray. Last time we did it, when I interviewed you for that article I wrote, built, not bought. I just, that sticks in my head. Built, not bought.
Yeah. There's a decal I see on guys' windows. It's a wrench and it says built, not bought. And I got to get one of them. You know, I don't know where he got it, but I want one.
And you know, I don't discount anyone who has a big paycheck that can buy one. I mean, that's all well and good, but you got to respect the guy who's like saving up his money and you know, like missing lunches just so he can buy a carburetor or whatever. You know, you got to respect that guy. And you know, like, and you know.
I have a couple friends that have, you know, Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff, but they also have muscle cars. And every one of them tell me, I love driving my muscle car better than the Lambo or the Ferrari. Yeah. I was like, well, you let me drive the Ferrari and Lambo. You go ahead and, you know what I mean? But they say it.
One of my favorite sayings is I tell people, now I've had my Pontiac since 1975. That's when I bought it. I was in high school.
Nice.
And, you know, so it's a member of the family. And I didn't drive it regularly for like 20 years. It just kind of kept it registered and insured, but it needed to be redone and I wasn't ready to do it. But now that I did redo it without paint, it's going to be painted like my drum set too. It's going to be gold. So I'm going to put a symbol on the antenna, I think. So, but anyway, now when I take it out, since I have such a long history with the car, and I've had plenty of other old cars, but I get that car out onto the highway by me, and you know, first gear, pull second gear, and I feel 30 years, actually 40 years, go off my shoulders, and I'm looking at the same fenders and hood that I looked at in 1975, wow. And it's like,
you know, that's an article by itself.
Except that it just drives and rides a lot better, you know. But it really is. I say it's a great American time machine. I tell people now, guys will say, well, what should I buy? You know, I want to do a Mustang or a Camaro. I'm like, listen, how much money do you have? Because if you have not restored a car or paid to restore a car, you're in for a rude awakening. It's going to take years. Yep. So I tell them, what did you drive in high school? I drove a Nova. I'm like, okay, well, you ain't going to find a nice two-door L78 Nova. Find a four-door Nova. Or if you drove a Gremlin or a Dodge Dart, buy that. You know, it's probably a cheaper car to buy if it's, you know, wasn't a top-level car. You can find it and just bomb around in it. Throw your kids in the back. Get ice cream. I guarantee you're going to love driving that car. It's going to take you right back to high school.
Yep.
Even the station wagons, the Chevelle station wagons. The Cadillac, those big, huge station wagons. I mean, those are cool. I mean, I saw a station wagon. What was it? A Vista Cruiser. You know, with the front end, it looked just like a 442. It was a beautiful.
Same nose, yeah.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're starting to get hard to find too. People are buying those up.
They are.
Yep. Because everything is getting so bought up. Now they're moving towards that kind of stuff, and you know.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, anything you could do to a Chevelle, you could do to a El Camino. You could do to a four-door. You could do to a station wagon, which would be cool. Imagine that station wagon on that autocross. What?
Yeah.
Right.
I'm looking at some old. One of the things I do is I have piles of old car magazines. Let's see.
Carl, I don't know if you
realize, right here,
but Ray has everything right there around him.
I mean,
if you ask him for any part, he has it right there next to him.
This is old stuff out of from the 60s and 70s, and you know, and I put a stack of them in the bathroom. I go through them, and I was just reading a Superstock magazine, and I'm looking at what these guys were racing in 1975. Yeah, it was a four-door wagon. guys, there was a lot of guys because the weight transfer on a wagon was different than on a car. And if you knew how to, and here's this Pontiac wagon with the left front wheel off the ground, two rear slicks just planted in it. I'm thinking, man, that chassis is screaming, but he's transferring it and he's booking, man. And these guys they're doing it. It was pretty much run what you brung, It was,
right.
It was cool.
So Ray, this reminds me of something. Marty Shore, who you made the introduction with for me a couple of years ago.
Right.
And earlier, to circle back on something we were talking about earlier, what cars today are most like the cars of yesteryear? And it was funny because I asked Marty Shore when I interviewed him for an article that I wrote for Automoblog, I asked him almost that exact same question. And if you know Marty Shore does not sugarcoat anything.
No.
And what I really, and that's honestly what I appreciate about him. So, and here I am, I'm like the next generation of automotive journalists. And I'm like on the phone with, like, it was really a teaching moment. And there was a lot of off the record stuff from like, okay, Marty, like, we're a smaller publication, we're trying to fight through the noise. Like, what advice do you have? And the guy is a wealth of knowledge, but he told me when I asked him, I said, so cars today, Marty, I said, what do you like? And what is reminiscent of the past? And he goes, honestly, Carl, he goes, nothing. He goes, let me clarify. He goes, all the cars today, they drive great, they handle great. He goes, the fact you can get over 20 miles a gallon in a muscle car, he goes, they're all fuel efficient. He's like, it's incredible stuff. He goes, but back then, and I'm quoting him now, we drove those cars so hard that we drove the wheels off of them. He goes, and then he goes, the very next year, we do the exact same thing again. He goes, they were built to drive. He goes, we drove them hard. And he said, I'm not saying cars today aren't great. He goes, I see a different trend. He goes, back then we went to the track. He goes, and we drove those cars to the limit.
No one was thinking about saving this car for 30 years.
Yes, exactly.
And I had a conversation with a guy about bushings, like body bushings and stuff like that. He goes, Terry, if you were to build a car, what kind of bushings would you put on? Polyurethane solid. And I said, on my 67 Chevelle, I might just very well go rubber. The only reason I'm not going to go rubber is because the rubber that they make now is nowhere near the rubber that they made back then.
Right.
So it's a little softer. So I will go poly. But I said, if you want to go rubber, you got to realize, people's like, I want to go rubber, but I don't want it to fade and crack and all that. I was like, the car that you're building right now will probably never, ever see snow. You won't see rain. These cars back then, they saw rain, they saw snow. These were cars. They sat outside. So if you're going to redo a car and you put rubber on it, it'll probably outlast the car because now it's going to be in a temperature-controlled garage. You don't have to worry about salt eating it apart. So go with the rubber,
Right.
I wanted to speaking about Marty Shore, I went and got this.
Yeah.
This is a book written by Joe Oldham.
Oh, I saw that.
Who worked for Marty.
Yep.
This is Confessions of a Muscle Car Test Driver. Joe would take the cars home, use them, drive them, and here you go. He did an AMX.
No,
we had him on the show, and he talked about this. And you want to see how Truth in Advertising, look at the pictures they posted. The wheel fell off, and they reported it. Like, they didn't sugarcoat it. He said the grill was falling out. The thing was a piece of crap. I mean, and Joe, we had this on the, we did a big tribute for Joe because he passed away a few years ago. And he kind of talked like this. So he said on the show, he says, Ray, he goes, I walked into my boss's office. Well, I walked into Marty's office and I said to him, Marty, here's my story. But when you read it, you may not like it. And he goes, well, why not? He goes, because I really had to trash this piece of shit car. He goes, well, is it the truth? Can you back it up? He goes, yeah,
Yes.
the facts, the figures. He goes, run it. He goes, we're not in this business to make friends. We're in here to tell the truth. That's Marty Shore.
What kind of car was it? I'm curious.
This was an AMX, one of the later ones.
Javelin? Okay.
Yeah, the Javelin, one of the later ones. It was just a piece of crap. Build quality was terrible. It was the end years, and they were having trouble.
Like
But,
67 73, 74 type.
When a manufacturer sends a car to guys like this who they know are going to test it, I mean, this book is filled with nothing but pictures of cars going through. I mean, yeah, I just opened the page randomly. Look,
Just getting the snot kicked out of them.
burnout and total torture testing. These guys did, yeah. There's a Mustang. Just you can't even see it through the tire smoke.
That's 60. That's 69.
Yeah. But they,
Yes.
so when you're sending these guys a car, if you don't send them something that you at least looked at and knew was going to stand up, shame on you, because they're going to report it. And Marty built his bones on small magazines. He had so many magazines that he started up and did very well. They were all great publications.
Can you imagine how cool it must have been to be able to like work for this guy, to be able to drive those type of cars and not care about them? I mean, if someone gave me that 69 Mustang, yeah, I'm not going to I'll do some donuts with it, but you're going to baby it like it's yours.
Well, not only that,
eat the snot out of it. Oh my goodness.
Joe told us that, he would, he picked up like it might have been the Hemi Cuda or it was a Hemi something. And he said, all the different manufacturers had a different spot in New York City where you would meet them to pick up the car. So he said this one Chrysler was like on like 56th and 7th, let's say. He says, so there I go, and it's it's night. It's the prescribed time. It's like 8 o'clock. It's dark. It's a little rainy. He goes, and I walk up to the guy and knock on a window, and the guy says, "Oh, you here to pick the car up?" He's like, "Yeah, I am." And he just like gets out, lets him take the car. Right? So talk about that. But the rule of the day was you take it home, you park it, take it shopping. Take it, run it around, go to in the day, they would go to the local street racing spots and they would pick street races because these were cars that were going to be like, the next year's car. They were brand new cars. They weren't sometimes not even released yet. So now it's like a big deal, going to make a splash on the street because like, holy shit, a GTO, a Judge, the first time he rolled a Judge out, people thought it was from outer space.
Right.
And then Saturday, boom, they were at Englishtown and they would just, they have the track and they would just do all their track testing at the,
Did they badge the car and like put like cardboard over it?
No. Again, it's like just the way the car was the way that they took it and the way they drove it. It was let's find they gotta have a nice good color picture in here.
Because now they got like all kinds of stuff over. You don't know what it is. You just see the windshield. That's it.
Yeah.
Yep. That I put there's
like
a good
that.
one.
They were just, just the way they were.
So I put a link in there, a couple up in the chat. That's my article with Marty Shore from a couple years ago, where I interview him about his book called Day One, which is a same kind of thing. A muscle car memoir from the guys who did it. Joel Oldham, who we've been talking about, writes the foreword to that book. Later on, Terry, in that interview. When Marty Shore got later on in his career, that's the book right there, and it's awesome. It came out at the end of 2018, maybe 2017, somewhere. It's not an old book. So, anyway,
do you have an autograph copy?
Nice. I did not get an autograph copy. I got a regular guy copy. But
I'll autograph it for you.
So anyway, Terry, so Marty Shore's telling me, so later in his career, he goes and he's doing some PR and public relations work for Buick. And right at this in the mid 80s, right as the Grand National is coming out.
Wow.
And so Marty goes, Carl, he goes, the funny thing was, he said, is that the Grand National, he goes, hauled. He said, it was an incredible car. He goes, you got that thing on the track. He goes, and that thing moved. And he said, dare I say it, he goes, the Grand National at the time would outhandle and outdrive the Vet. He's like, and Chevy and the GM brass was really sensitive about that. And so, they were really on the Buick guys to, hey, don't step on our territory. The Vet is the car. Don't do this, So Marty comes up with this idea, and I put this in the article. Marty comes up with this idea to do a bumper sticker for the Grand National that says "We brake for Corvettes."
That's
and
in the book.
The GM brass, like you'd have thought the world was ending. The GM brass and Chevy brass came down on Buick and Marty like so hard. But he said back in the day, he goes, he saw prototypes and early developments, he said, of the Grand National. He said, he goes, and I can't remember what he says in the article. He said something like that would have put the Corvette in the weeds or put the Corvette out in the pasture or something. So it's just, but again, you know, perspective from a guy who did it. And honestly, it's just like Ray said, they did not make their money in those magazines. High Performance Cars was the flagship magazine of Magnum Royal Publications. They did not make their money off traditional advertising. They made it off newsstand sales. So they made it off guys like you and I and everybody else who thought, hey, you know, what's the deal with this car? Like what's the deal? And so like those guys were there, man. Like, and they were there in a way that very few auto journalists today are there.
Yeah.
You know?
They're car guys because, like you said, for them to be like, you know, like we're gonna tell it like it is. That's beautiful.
You know, I got to tell you a funny story to wrap my story with Marty up. You've heard it. We have a guy call the show. One of our friends. We call Chris nicknamed him Billy Velvet. Billy G is he's a retired cop out of Whitestone, and he does a car show every year. It's been a family tradition since '58 in this neighborhood, little enclave up by the bridge. So one year, Marty sends me an email and says, "Hey Ray, he goes, I'm coming in to your neck of the woods. Are you going to the Malba car show?" I'm like, Malba car? What the hell is that?
Right.
He goes, "Oh, it's a show in Whitestone." So it ends up, you know, I knew Joe. He wasn't doing a show with us yet, but he was a friend. So I send Joe an email and I say, "Hey, Joe, what the hell is Malba?" He writes back to me. He goes, "Oh, it's this little section of, you know, it's a very exclusive little area of Whitestone right by the bridge." He goes, "My drummer used to live there." I'm like, "Okay, there's a car show there." So it ends up, we went back and forth. I'll cut to the chase. He and Bill had been altar boys together. So that, you know, they had, and I said, "Well, listen, I gotta talk to this guy, Bill." So we get in touch with him. We get invited up to the show because it's invite only. Marty comes up and we meet Marty. You know, Chris and I get to meet Uncle Marty, as we deemed him. Now he comes up almost, not every year, but like he was up not last year, the year before, and we interviewed him. So he comes up for that show. You know, maybe this year will be the year. And if you're interested in taking a road trip, but you know, Terry, it's easy for you. You just shoot down over the bridge.
You let me know. I'll be there.
Carl, you want to? Lewis, everybody's. Well, I'll get you in.
Carl, pick me up on your way across 80.
I will. Now, one of these days, I keep thinking about this. Like one of these days, I want to do like Motor Mouth Radio, but in the studio, and not a call in, but in the
It's
studio.
awesome. It's awesome.
Terry's
Isn't
done
it?
Yeah,
twice.
Terry has done it. Sure. Oh yeah, I love having people in the studio.
It's awesome. It's really cool.
And I mean, I love calling in. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, one of these days, like maybe I just like, you know, if I was in the neighborhood or something. I mean, I don't travel as much anymore as I used to. You know, a couple of years ago, I was traveling all the time for my, you know, because I was on the auto show. So you're traveling all the time. But yeah, but you know what though? A road trip would be good. And Ray, I'm going to circle back to something you said about driving your car, you know, and just, you know, feeling all those years and those good memories. And even though you've driven that car 100 times, it's still amazing. It's still great. You know, one, the love of driving, which we usually put in context, the love of driving in comparison to autonomous driving. So, you know, we say, okay, automated cars are coming, but you know what? Young people still love to drive, and there's a whole car culture. But right now, I think with everything that's going on in the world, you know, we can't go anywhere. But my wife and I have been sneaking out and going for drives at night. We don't stop anywhere. We don't go anywhere, you know, but we've been able to get out and go for a drive. And last weekend, so I'm on a number of the automakers' press fleets here in Detroit, and they have kept the press fleets running for journalists, actually. So we're still able to get cars and drive them.
Nice.
Last week, I had a new Genesis G70, which is Hyundai's luxury brand that they spun off.
Nice car.
Yeah. The kicker with this one, 6-speed manual transmission.
Oh, sweet.
So, oh my goodness, it was their entry level model, but even their entry level was like more luxurious than anything I'd ever seen. I mean, it's incredible. But it G70, 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo under the hood, and a 6-speed manual. And my wife and I on Saturday night, we took that for a drive, and I forgot how much fun it was to drive a manual transmission.
Yeah.
You know, we drove up north of the city. We drove around up there. There's a road called Pontiac Trail, so it's north of the city. It's kind of out. But it winds and turns and twists. It's probably like about a half hour from Detroit here. There's a bunch of lakefront properties up there, so you can go and drive around the lake. And it's probably about 45, 50 on those roads. Plenty of looping turns and plenty, and it was like, we were so cooped up, and we're like, let's go for a drive. We got the press vehicle, and man, guys, I tell you, driving right now has never been more important, just to keep your sanity as a car person, and then to go out and drive a manual transmission. It was amazing. Like, we lost track of time. I mean, the sun ended up going down, and we drove back home, and
we just did that the other day because we've all been cooped up in the house, my wife and my youngest daughter and I. And we said, hey, let's just go for a drive in the middle of the day. We're all home. Let's go. So I don't know why. I guess because I had time and I could do. I kind of unboxed my Impala. I just have it in the front of the driveway. I've been using my Impala, my SS. I said, they're going for one car. I said, no, let's take this car. So they like, wow, I forgot how nice this car is. It's so big. And my daughter says, wow, it still smells like leather. Like, yeah, it's 20 years old. It still smells like leather because I never use it. And we just drove the Impala, went out east, went north, went back. Just did this nice long loop of about an hour, maybe hour and a half worth of driving, and just going nowhere. And it was like, yeah, we needed that.
No, it's totally. I mean, even if you're not driving it, cars just affect certain people in a certain way. Like for me, my father, I have a 71 Chevelle. My father had a 70 Chevelle. And I remember being in the back seat of that car, but now I'm driving the car. So
right.
Driving that down south. And then the most touching thing is my mother remembers that car.
Yeah.
My mother remembers. So when she sees me drive that 71 Chevelle, she's like, you look just like your dad. You bring me back to back.
That's great.
Nice. Had that car, So, like I said, I always said it. I don't care what your political beliefs are. I don't care where you stand on anything. Cars and music are the one thing, or the two things that bring people together.
Yeah.
For sure.
At that point, everything's out the door. A nice car is a nice car, and people want to talk to you.
A couple years ago, I got my Pontiac going. I had to, the nose was off it, but I was going to fire the motor for the first time. I mean, it had been started, the engine building, it had run already, but it was going to start for the first time in the chassis. And I had my wife come out because I wanted to watch the oil pressure and, look at a few things. And of course, the first time it fired, she's like flagging me down because fuel was squirting out of the filter. Okay, we'll fix that. Tighten it up. And then I fire it up again and it's idling, and I'm looking at her again, and she's like getting weepy, like she's starting to, and I'm like, is the car on fire again? Like, why? And I stopped. I went over, like, well, what's the matter? And she goes, now she's been with me longer, not longer than, almost as long as that car. And she said, I got to just tell you, I had this weird flashback. I know this car as long as I know you. And she says, I remember, not seeing it for a long time. And we dated in it. We did a lot of things in it. She goes, but then when you brought it back and had to drag it off the flatbed because the brakes were locked, and it looked like such a sad puppy, and like this car would never be back together. There was, dead mice in it. There were acorns all over the place from the squirrels, and it was in a garage. Right. She says, I never thought that it was going to be back together. She was like, not that I doubted you, but just to see it running again is like this whole, she had a moment. It was like this whole, she saw the whole transformation take place. She goes, I saw you come in the house every day, beat and tired and greasy, but smiling. When I asked you, you said, no, I got beat up today, but I had fun, and I'm going to go back at it tomorrow. And I explained to her how any point along the way, this is where guys just stop working on the car because they went 2 steps forward, but 3 steps back. It happens. Or something broke. Something was made. I said, those days, I closed the door and shut the light out and said, I'll be back. Maybe tomorrow.
Listen,
maybe I'll take 2 days off,
When I was building a bike, man, I went in the house and like, man, I'm selling it. I'm throwing it in the garbage.
Yeah.
And my wife would push me back out in the garage and shut the door. She's like, no, you're going to finish this bike.
That's it.
So now that I'm starting on the Cadillac, as soon as I get my house together, I was just going to, do stuff to it and drive it. But I think I'm going to take the whole thing apart. I'm going to frame it.
Right.
I'm just going to do it right and do it the way I want to. And
Did y'all
You
guys
know.
have a video where my drive shaft and my Chevelle kicked out on the dyno at 120 miles an hour?
I never saw
Yeah.
that one.
You never saw that video?
No.
Yeah, it kicked out at 120 miles. It was supposed to be a happy day. This is to what Lewis said and Ray just said. It was supposed to be a happy day. Bring the dyno, got on the dyno, a faulty U-joint, kicked that drive shaft out at 120 miles an hour on the dyno when it was over. And it took out the transmission. It took out, I had to redo the floorboards in the back, just the tunnel part under the seat. And I had to, what else? It cracked. It cracked the bell housing, and the exhaust system was munched. I got that car I got the car home like at 8 o'clock at night. I rolled it in the garage, turned the light off. I was like, I'm not touching this car. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, like around 11 o'clock, I'm sitting up watching Adult Swim in my bed, and I'm like, let me go out and fix this car. You know, so I was planning not to touch that car for about a good month, but I was like, you know what? It's not getting fixed. And look,
Well, you know, if it was me, I would use that as like the grace of God moment. And I'd say, thanks to the grace of God, I wasn't doing 120 on Ocean Parkway when the thing let go. Thank God it was on dyno and everybody is okay.
And that's what the dyno guy even said. What's it called? Dyno guy at Tune Times in New Jersey. He said the same thing. Terry, I'd much rather it happen here on my dyno instead of you on the Palisades Parkway or something like that, or racing the car, because then it would have been horrible. You know, so I wasn't too mad, but I was just like, you know, I think it was like maybe 2 weeks because I got on it full time because I wanted to be whole. I wanted to be back where I was. 2 weeks, and I think it was like $1,500 to $2,000 later because I had to get the whole tranny rebuilt. And the thing that got me was it was a brand new leftover tranny from a 2006 GTO, never ran. It was just a new old stock, and I just happened to have to get my hands on it.
Wow. You know, at the time when you're doing stuff, you don't think about this, but when you have to go back and redo it, it's much easier because you did it already.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's a lot faster and everything. It's just your mindset is like, oh, I got to do this again.
Right.
But you know, when you're going through it, you know exactly what to do and hit it.
Terry, that's a T56 that was in there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. As I know it, the T56 sits on like a 15-degree angle.
Yes.
Is that correct? So what bell housing did you use?
I used the regular stock GTO bell housing.
Oh, okay. And all right, as long as that, all right.
Yeah, it both right
or less. So both
and
right. Okay.
What's it called? I had to do my pitch and angle thing all over again and everything.
Right.
You know, I was just, you know, I was sour, but then I was just like, the way I look at it is like, you know, like Dave Wilson always says, you know, like you got to do something over again. You know, like it's not hard when you know how to do it.
Right.
Yep.
And
second time isn't even as worse as the third time.
Exactly.
And it's like
the hardest part, the messiest part was the dyno mat, getting that crap out. You know,
ripped it up, huh?
That was the hardest part.
Right.
Yeah.
So Terry, what projects, you know, automotive projects do you want to do that you haven't done yet? Like, do you have anything for the future that you want to do, like a project that's in your bucket list?
Right now, I'm going to get back on my 67 Chevelle. I'm doing a 67 Chevelle, and it's going to be most of my cars are LS installed. I mean, I just lost my mind. I want to do I like the supercharger, but I think I want to try twin turbos. I might. I don't know. I'm still doing research on it. Twin turbos are a little bit. I like a clean look. Twin turbos, you know, you got the tubing all over the place. I think I'm going to stick with the supercharger, but I do have a Lincoln Mark 8. Love that car. Lincoln Mark 8, and those cars never came with a stick. So I'm going to throw an LS in that with a stick.
Nice.
Wow, yeah. How long do you think that will take you to do that? I mean, if you had to guess.
Well, the Lincoln's in pretty good shape. So it's just, I mean, it drives. I mean, I can start it up and drive it around.
Sure.
I stopped driving that car because I blew a brake line, and I was just like, you know, like I got 3 other cars. I don't need to drive this, you know. But I want to start on my 67 Chevelle. I have a 69 Camaro, which that was my first LS install that I did for me because I was just like I wanted that car. But the car has original upper and lower front. What's it called? Say again.
Control arm?
Control arms. And it's a leaf spring car. You know, it was the best back then.
Right.
You know, like the
Right.
hot stuff back then. You know, like,
Sure.
but what I want to do now is I want to do a 4-link. I'm going to mini tub it. I'm doing a 4-link in the back, and I'm going to get all. I got all the equipment. It's just a matter of having time. So all the stuff I would have been done, but my truck that came first because I wanted to get that up and going. And then, like I said, you know, along the way, I wanted to, you know, I figured, you know, like, okay, if I'm going to build this thing up, I might as well build it the way I want it, the truck that I always wanted. So I got to throw a blower on this thing. And now, like I said, doing away with the all-wheel drive, because with all-wheel drive, you got to keep the wheels the same height.
Right.
So now I can get like a nice natural rake, get some bigger wheels in the back,
Right.
and you know, like I could do what I want to do. You know, I don't have to worry about that whole everything's got to be even. So it's for that.
Just check, Terry, check me on this. I just got to know if I had a senior moment and blanked out for a second. But how do we get from the '69 Camaro to the Trailblazer in like the same sentence? What did I miss? Segue, brother, that you just blew me away because I thought I fell asleep for a second, but I don't.
No. Well, because like that's the project I got to finish to get that out.
Okay,
Right.
so there's a bridge there somewhere that I.
Yeah.
missed.
You were thinking drums, probably. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I actually was. I'm trying to think of how to muffle this bass drum because I got the drums in my den still, and I really just want it to be quiet.
You want a nice thud?
Yeah, a dead thud. The thing actually has a boom. I ordered the Evans pillow for it. It didn't. It's gonna come.
That's what I was gonna say. Put a pillow. You know what you got to do? Put a blanket in there.
Yeah.
Put a pillow. That'll give it like thud.
Yeah.
I wouldn't keep mine, but you know, my cat they got it, and it's all. I had to take it out and I had to wash it. You know.
Yeah.
Cat's
You
off.
know, I'm putting myself into a rabbit hole. I tend to do this a lot,
Yeah.
but on the Cadillac, I've been doing a lot of research, and those California guys, they're not messing around, dude. They're engraving everything under the car, chroming everything.
Yeah.
So, listen, I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? This is going to be my car that is going to be that car. You know what I
Follow
mean?
your dreams, brother. Follow your dreams. That's what I say. I mean, like if you have a vision, you got to go through with it. You got to go through with it because no compromise.
Yeah.
Right.
If you see yourself, if you see this Cadillac a certain way and your face, okay, I can get this car running in 3 months, as opposed to getting what I really want, it'll take 9 months.
That's where my brain's going.
Yeah. Lewis, you got to send me some pictures of that when it's done, and then we'll put it on the Automoblog Twitter. You know,
Oh, for sure.
So those guys, they're engraving, I guess, the frame and the suspension and
Man, they're engraving the A-arms, the
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, yeah, I could say like the A-frame, the A-arms you can do on a bench out of the car. The frame, I guess, yeah, you could do it. I guess if you're on a lift.
they're doing rear ends, they're doing transmissions.
Yeah.
But see, the thing is,
Everything.
bro, you gotta decide if you're gonna want to drive this car, or if you want a mural.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
listen. I'm gonna drive it. I'm gonna engrave everything I can touch, and then I'm gonna paint everything I can paint, and
Take
I'm
a
gonna drive
picture
it.
and
Dude.
drive it.
Yeah, I'm gonna drive it. I'm gonna get it dirty. You know what I mean?
Right.
That'll be
You
a good show car, though, too, Lewis. I mean, that'll make for a nice show car.
Yeah.
You know.
Consuelo. Yes.
Consuelo.
That's
So what
right.
do they, Lewis? What do they engrave on those different components then, or I should say, what do you want to engrave on there?
They do like scrolls and different
Filigrees and stuff.
it's incredible, man.
Yeah.
You know, I've been researching it for a while, and I'm gonna do a little bit of engraving on Peaches to learn it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
I want like the Art Deco frame or something. You know, it's like
Right.
yeah, it's no joke, man. I tell you, the lowrider culture is
Here.
on a different level.
yeah.
And now they're doing LS. They're doing the muscle cars with the paint, with the interior. I mean, it's like they're taking all the car culture and putting it in the lowriders. It's just, oh man, I'm like hooked.
I've always said the lowriders were ahead of their time. I mean, I remember being a kid and liking those cars. You know.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
they
it's not just hydraulics anymore. It's
No.
they're sophisticated, man. I'm telling you, if you really find a good YouTube channel with some good guys on there, man, you see, man, they're not playing.
like $50,000 in the paint job.
That's what I
Yeah,
was just gonna say that. I was just gonna say that, man. Just the paint alone,
Yeah.
they're works of art. They're just completely works of art.
But, those guys, the core of it, and what a lot of the guys are still continuing on today is the sense of family, where
Mhm.
guys will get together and paint a member's car in the club. They'll all come together and
Yeah. They have
and
sand parties.
help the guy out. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Which is that's the way car clubs used to be back in the day, and they've kept that alive, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
See,
talk
here in Ohio, we don't have that here because people don't stick together. People are jealous of each other. Oh,
Yeah.
he must be selling drugs. He had this nice car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in California, like you said, Ray, they'll have 20 guys come over and help sand your car down.
Right.
Then they'll take it over to the next guy's house and they'll paint it. And the next guy does the hydraulics. The next guy does, they all trade off.
Right.
You got an interior guy that's in the club. You got a motor guy that's in the club, and they all
because at some point your car's going to be going down that line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you help them out. I'm with that 100%.
That's why
Oh, yeah.
years ago, when I was doing my car show on Father's Day, we needed help. And I met these guys in the club called the Exceeding Limits Truck Club, ELTC. And they all have body and chassis dropped trucks. These things lay on the ground. They got to cut a hole in the hood because the engine will come out of it when they drop it. That's what happened. And a lot of them were younger guys. So we had them on the show. And early on, my co-host Chris had asked them, why do you guys do this to these trucks? Why don't you do cars? And the one guy, he's a younger guy at the time. He was only just like maybe 25. He said, well, I'll tell you why. Because we'd love to have muscle cars. We'd love to have a GTO or a Chevelle or, a Mustang. He says, but you guys have them all and you're not letting them go.
yeah. Just bottom up.
How did you get your first car? You couldn't afford what you wanted, so you
Right.
bought what you could afford. And that's what they did. They bought what they could afford and they just ran with it. And I said, man, and now I found out they're doing these things. Like they're going to pull a body off of a truck so they can work on a chassis. They put out the call, 15 guys show up at their house. The girls go get pizza, beer, whatever, boom. And they all just like a swarm of bees, they do it. And I told them, I said, you guys are embodying the hot rod and the car club mantras from the 50s. And I love it. I'll do whatever you guys want. They made me an honorary member. I said, you guys keep it up. And people wouldn't let them into car shows because they thought that they were, they said, there's a prejudice against us because they think it's all foreign. He goes, and they drive like Chevy Loves and Ford Rangers. That was the majority of the trucks in the club. It's like, these are American trucks.
Right.
They think they're foreign. They think we're a lowrider club that's with foreign trucks. Like, get the hell out of here. So
It's this remind, and Ray, you know this about me, and Lewis, I think you do too. But Terry, there's another part of the work that we do with Automoblog and just that I do in the industry that's really focused around autonomous driving and advanced driver assistance systems. And that's a whole nother world in and of itself. And you spend time around that section of the business, for lack of a better word. I'll just call it the section of the business. But there's very talented engineers and technologists and computer scientists working on ways to make cars safer. But I think sometimes that world gets stuck in that silo, right? And they don't necessarily understand the larger car culture at play like we do. So in other words, the car show, and I want to get out and I want to turn wrenches or I want to go for a drive. And Automoblog is in a unique place because we kind of sit somewhere in the middle, because we're just relaying the information. We're just trying to educate people on what's going on. But there have been some times in conversations where I have said, or I have thought, that just really isn't, your idea is awesome, but it's not necessarily going to fly for the everyday car consumer, because car people just don't think and act like that, at the end of the day. There's just certain ideas that you have that are very, very good, but to a majority of car people, it's not going to mean it. They're going to see it as a threat. They're going to see it as you coming in and taking their automobile away. or it's just technology for the sake of technology. So here's this sensor, here's this LiDAR, here's this component, here's this artificial intelligence. But yet at the end of the day, there's no, like, this is the actual consumer who actually will buy the car, and they're buying the car for their family. And the guy who's buying this car for his family to keep his wife safe and his daughter safe is a guy who turns wrenches in his spare time and is an avid car guy. And so, you know, there's really a disconnect there. It's gotten better the last couple of years because I think we figured out, oh, we're over the curve now, and there's a lot of engineering and design that needs to be done to make this work. But I'm telling you, there's a whole other side of the business that I don't think they understand what we're talking about right now. That it's completely foreign to them, and I won't say the automakers, you know, but in the work that I've done, I've been around people that they've hired that they're sending out to be like regional managers, you know, so they're like the intermediary between the dealership and the automaker, you know. And, you know, some of the training programs that they have aren't great, you know, so they're young people fresh out of college. Not that that's bad, you know, not that there's nothing wrong with a marketing degree. I'm not saying that, but they've never been around a car.
Yeah, not
you
car
know,
people.
They're not car people. So, you know, when they say things and I've been part of these programs, and they have to stand by a car. They have to give a presentation, you know, and so they'll go and they're like, and this has a 3.6 VVT liter, and I'm like, well, one, VVT is variable valve timing, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so it's just regurgitation of the information. But these are the people they've hired to go out into the field, you know, to work with dealers and then ultimately to interface with customers. And it just, to me, that divide is very problematic because at the end of the day, they don't understand what we're talking about. You know,
No. It's like my buddy. He's
crazy.
He was a Ford mechanic, and he's a car guy. Matter of fact, you guys probably seen him when we were out to see McKinney. He's a car guy. He loves Ford, and he says, Terry, it's not the same because he says these car guys, they read a book. Ford mechanics, it should take about 4 hours to do this, and they got like a video to show you how to do it.
Right.
Now, back when we were growing up, a car mechanic would work at Ford, and when he leaves Ford, he's jumping in some serious car. He's jumping in a Camaro or something.
Yep.
You know. But now these guys, they're not car guys. They're just basic mechanics that they're today's mechanic.
Right.
Like I said, when I was in high school, I knew many guys that worked at like Chevy dealerships, and you know, like when they left, they jumped in a IROC or either a Grand National or something. Yep. You heard them come in, boom, you know.
Yeah.
These guys now, they're coming in like Honda and Ford, you know. So, like you said,
in a similar thing, we see this in automotive journalism a lot. You know, we get solicited all the time for guest posts, like all the time. It's nuts, and we delete them. We ignore a lot of them. We very rarely ever publish guest posts, and that's not because there's not talented people out there. It's just, and I want to be careful how I phrase this because I don't want to sound insensitive. But just because you are a writer doesn't mean that you can write for an automotive publication.
Right.
You know, because you have to know cars. And at the very least, okay, maybe you don't have to be a technician, but for Automoblog, you got to understand the car business, and you got to understand car consumers, and you got to understand how people think when it comes to cars. You have to understand how automotive news works and how automakers do business. And you do have to have some understanding of basic automotive technology. You know, okay, so here's a multi-link rear suspension, and here's the benefits of using things like carbon fiber, and here's the benefits of using compacted graphite iron in the block if you're driving a truck. And we get solicited a lot by people who claim themselves to be super writers, you know, and so they send over proposals to do, you know, articles on cars, you know, and they bill it like they're the greatest person. And I'm like, guys, you don't know, like there's, sure, you might be a halfway decent writer, but you don't know anything about cars. Like our audience is gonna see right through that.
Right through it.
Like,
You
know what I mean?
They learned how to write a resume is what they did. And they learned how to market themselves.
Yes.
But I'll tell you what, if they go to another article on Audible Blog's list, they couldn't. It would be the acid test. Tell them, name your five favorite car movies to watch while you're quarantined in your house, and let's see what they come up with.
Yeah.
So there's a disconnect, and again, it's what I see in the automotive business is I see some good stuff on paper, but I don't see the true genuine. I can connect with a car person, or I have the ability to connect with a car person. And when I would see this a lot at Auto Show. You would see guys just, pour their passion out for all these different cars, and you could tell some of the coworkers that I had, like it was just a job for them, like there was no, they didn't have and they didn't have the ability to take the conversation to the next level. And unfortunately, there's more of that in the automotive business, I think, than we realize. Wow. So it creates this disconnect to what we're talking about right now. And so then you break it down and, like Chassis John is saying, okay, so today's mechanic needs to know a lot more. So I'm going to tag on to this Chassis John. When I was working as a national rep for some of the manufacturers that I have here in Detroit, one of the number one complaints that I heard was this: hey, I had a check engine light on. I took it to my dealer. They did something to it. They told me not to worry. I took their word. A week later, it was back on. They went in. They recalibrated something in the computer. And keep in mind, they're speaking in layman's terms. They're not really sure what happened, but they're like, they did something with the tool or whatever. But then you find out it's been like 4 or 5 times, and they've never really diagnosed the problem. They just replaced a part, or they and that was a number one frustration, that these consumers had. And again, that's the disconnect, because car people, it's like car people are an anomaly in the car business. Like, to really sit down and understand and go, okay, there's a consumer on the other end of that they're counting on this vehicle for their daily routine. They're counting on this vehicle for their daily life. And that's the disconnect in what we find with Automoblog, with some of these writers that come to us. But that's also the disconnect that, like Chassis John is saying, that these mechanics need more training. They need to know a lot more, because there's a living, breathing person at the other end of that with that car.
Well, that's really where your service writer comes in, though, because he's the interface between the technician and the customer. So the service writer has to be on point. But the thing that I've seen, and I'm sure you have too, is a lot of these guys coming out. They all want to. They're computer based, and they want to do the diagnostics and the computer stuff. They don't want to take a wrench, a cylinder head or an intake manifold, or I don't want to get dirty.
Yeah, that's grease. Is that grease?
God forbid.
Right. But so there's that side, and then on the other side, like with the farther looking, the autonomous driving stuff, it's like it's all in a laboratory, or it's all on a spreadsheet, or it's all in a presentation at some tech conference. And again, there's that divide.
Again, the computer component of that, just the research and the R&D component of that, which is all computer based, is so intensive and so huge. When you live in that world, it's hard to go outside that bubble. I think it's a rare person.
It is, and it is really difficult, and there's a lot, but I just don't want us to lose our driving culture. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I don't, and admittedly, and I've said this before, I think even on Motormouth Radio, I mean, 4 or 5 years ago, like I got caught up in the hype, and I got caught up in the curve of the autonomous car and all this stuff. And, we need to push forward to the future, and, we need to, and then I don't know, then I just kind of sat back. And honestly, Ray, like, I credit a lot of this to being on the Motormouth show, and then getting exposed to you guys and getting in your group, and then we started working with Hagerty more and featuring more Hagerty stuff. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to pump the brakes on this a little bit, because at the end of the day, I like to drive. you know.
It was kind of funny because when you first came in with that, you came at me and Joe, kind of, serious. And, Joe and I spoke about it beforehand and said, we both said, like, yeah, nah, we're not into this. They're like, we got to figure out a way to make this interesting and not make it look like we're ganging up on this guy. But, we gotta make a discoursive discussion about this that's intelligent. And we saw it, like, as the calls progressed that you made to us, we saw it kind of tailoring off, and we kind of both went like, yeah, good. Yeah. we got it.
we all got caught up in that curve, I think.
Yeah.
And now, but the last couple of years, it's been like, wow, this is a long way off from happening.
Yeah.
And not only is the technology not there yet, people still love cars. This is evidenced by this conversation that we're having.
Well, that, the new movies like Fast and Furious, that really pumped up a lot of people back into driving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And,
all 69 Chargers can do massive wheelies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And now they're coming out with the muscle cars again.
871 blowers. You got to have that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you can go to the store and buy a car right now with 700 horse.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unheard of. And now people are starting to drive. They're like, man.
Yeah.
I seen a Jeep Cherokee go by me the other day. Him eat up. Boy, I was like, woo! Like, man, what's he got in that bad boy? And
few weeks back, I was able, for a press vehicle, I was able to drive a Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon with a 3-liter Eco Diesel in it. And then again, I was right back. I'm like, I go back to Larry Webster's book, Larry Webster, editor-in-chief of Hagerty Magazine, who wrote the book Never Stop Driving, which is another excellent book, like the Marty Shore book and the Joe Oldham book, but Larry Webster was another one who just, when he was researching that book, he said, we found that in the fabric of American society that people use their cars to enrich their everyday lives and to enrich the lives of everybody around them. And the whole time I was in that Jeep, man, which I thought of Jeep and Al Handy, because I'm like, man, he would be in hog heaven right now behind the wheel of this. But that was another one too. I was like, man, this Never Stop Driving. I thought of Larry Webster's book, and I ended up putting that in my review, that just like you can talk all the technology you want, and I think it's cool. And like I said, Ray, and because when I was first on the show, I was really adamant about that. And then, you get behind the wheel of a new Jeep with a diesel, or like you said, Lewis, you see something with a Hemi and you go, you know what, I kind of still like that.
To add to that, I'm thinking as you're talking and about my own love of driving. And I realize, like, I drive my Mazda 3. It's my daily car. And I can have a lot of fun driving that car. And then I get my Fiat Spider that's like, a 4-cylinder, doesn't have it's not a fast car, but it's a great highway car. And I just find the joy in almost everything I drive. Like, not everything it's not going to do what the other car does. And no one of them is going to do everything. That's why you have to have a few of them. So you got to appreciate everyone for what they do and what they give you. And
I'm with you.
And there's a lot of people can't do that. They're like, it's just a car. Or no, it's too slow. It's too big. Like, no, man, give me that big caddy. I love to cruise a big caddy and just do the gangster lean. It's like, it's cool. You got to adapt to the vehicle.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Look,
every vehicle has a flavor. You know what I mean?
It does.
Right.
You see what Chester John wrote? He said, someday the world will be like Red Barchetta.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Red Barchetta. Yeah.
I strip away the old debris.
Yeah.
I love that song, man.
Yeah, good song.
I couldn't believe Neil Peart died a while back.
Broke my heart. Oh,
that came up on our Twitter feed one day, and I'm like, you got to be like, it was like the trending for you, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to click on this. Like,
yeah, I know.
Like,
you couldn't have a conversation about the best drums without him going into it.
For sure.
Without him coming up at least within the top 5.
Yeah.
You just can't. I mean, I have drummers, and he is definitely in the top 6. He's got it. He's got to be. He's the most technical drummer I've ever seen.
I'm
Yeah.
past my bedtime, fellas. I got to bounce.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hung late tonight, Lewis.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
Having a good time.
I'm being a big boy.
Yeah.
Hey, Carl, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Look,
Thank
you
you,
need to come
Lewis.
on more often, man. Just anytime, just text me,
Okay.
man. We'll get you in for sure.
That
'Cause
sounds good. That
you
sounds
always
good.
have great talks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Terry, do you have a Twitter handle, a Twitter
I
page?
actually do, but I'm mostly more on Facebook, Instagram, and Instagram. My
Facebook.
Twitter, handle, like I really don't go there, but
Yeah. Okay. Can you send me? I want to put. So I have this starting the Trailblazer SS. I want to put a link to that on our Twitter page. So it goes to your YouTube page. Can you send me?
Tell you what, Lewis, you got his number?
I'll do it right now.
Yeah, text me your Instagram because I'll put a link up there. So
I think we have a link to Terry's stuff on motormouthradio.com too. I think we have it on our website. Yeah.
Everyone should.
I do too.
yeah.
Yeah, you can get it
So
on Planet Traffic also.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I can look it up. This video, it's about a 45-minute video. That's the right
I have
one.
a shorter one that I did. I have like a 6-minute one where it went right to the meat.
Okay.
This one was just like everything. It explained how the truck got to this position. It explained, what's going on. So that was a long journey.
It was like me explaining the history of the radio show. Once upon a time.
Terry, I'm going to put that up on our page. I think I'll do that as soon as we get off the air. I think that'll be cool for our readers to see.
I appreciate that. I really do.
Of course.
And listen, Carl, check it out. If you come on that radio show, I'll go on with you. How's that?
Okay.
Me and you.
That sounds good.
You come. We're gonna get it on.
That sounds good. I'll look forward to that, man. I'll look forward to that. And I do. And like I said, and I mean this, like Ray and Lewis, like we owe a lot of our recent success to you guys because it's like Google does a lot. And I tell you, man, you always got to do the search engine analytics and go through the SEO. And that's the nature of the beast today. You have got to trend on Google, but not all of your audience can come from Google either. You can't, because it's not the end all be all. It's important, but it has been fun to get in with you guys and to, Chassis John and John Day and Papa Squirrel and Al Handy. Cause every time Al Handy tags us on Twitter, I'm like, oh boy, I'm like, what now? So we really from everybody in our team, we really appreciate you guys bringing us into your universe and letting us play in the sandbox. And,
We appreciate you coming, man, for real.
Well, it goes both ways. And I like to think that guys like us, we're small time, but we're the real deal. We're doing it in the streets. We're doing what we've done all our lives. Mm-hmm. And there's a passion there, and we don't know it all. And like I said, we beat it, we break it, now we fix it,
Yeah.
And it's real. I've told people, I've had many conversations with people and said, yeah, you know what? I'm never going to make a lot of money doing this, but that's okay because it's not about that.
It's the relationships. I mean, we've been doing Planet Traffic. It'll be 5 years in September.
Yeah.
And the relationships that I've built, all over the country, you know what I mean? Right. And into Canada, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And for me, I started this YouTube channel, I don't know how many years ago, almost 10 years ago, with just showing my friends what, just keeping touch with my friends that moved away who are car guys. And next thing I knew, this thing, it went crazy. And from that, I met Lewis, I met Ray, I met Chassis John, I met about all the guys at Papa Squirrel, all the guys, now you, and a lot of guys in the industry. And I got people from all over the world emailing me, texting me, thank you for putting the video out. It's beautiful. I never road to take off this way. And if it was to stop today, I'm very appreciative. I appreciate everything that came with it because I got good friends, which are now my brothers. And this has been a wild trip. And I could not have imagined it when I first started. I didn't think it would go anywhere near where it is. And I'm very humble.
And I learned, Terry, I learned a lot. Like I gleaned a lot from you tonight. And that's the best part about this is because, again, on the automotive journalism side, You're looking at a lot of spreadsheets. You're looking at a lot of press releases. You're spending more time behind a computer than you are a car. And so you guys have a different vantage point than I do. And that's a much needed vantage point when you're trying to educate consumers and you're trying to educate readers, get them accurate information. So I've gleaned a lot. You've got 14,000 followers on your YouTube. So that's awesome. I mean, that's incredible. But I really gleaned a lot, Terry. So I want to sleep on everything and, let it percolate in my mind. But I really appreciate, just everything you shared, man, because again, at some point down the road, that knowledge is helpful, because I might say, I talked to a guy I'm playing in traffic and he was telling me such and such, so yeah.
I always wanted to have something to do with cars. I always did. And like you, I would imagine I'm a communication major.
Right. Same.
I was supposed to be a weatherman.
Still can. Ain't too late.
I was supposed to be a weatherman. Honestly, that's what it was.
Hey, they get paid to be wrong.
Yeah.
Hey, if Lewis is building his dream Cadillac, you can be a weatherman.
I'm gonna help Lewis with Ellis in that caddy for sure.
Listen, man, I'm gonna call Nelson tomorrow, man. I got to work out a deal with him or something, man. Because when I heard you, listen, when you started that truck, I'm like, oh, listen at it. It was a man. Look, it's about to go down.
I will tell you this. I did take it out. That truck is awesome. That truck is.
Yeah.
The truck.
Well, that leaves a big hole in the garage, doesn't it, when you pull it out?
It is very interesting. You got to hold on.
Well, I'm saying it leaves a lot of space inside that garage.
I'm willing to say if I put slicks on that truck, I think I can get a wheelie.
All right.
Because how it said, if light breaks beyond yon tire and road, wheelie is achieved.
Yeah, that's pretty slick.
Very scientific.
If it's just like a little light,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or win by a mile.
Right.
Exactly.
All the same.
Yep. Exactly. But hey, you guys can stay on. I'm gonna jump off.
No,
And,
I
I
gotta
want
get
to go back in the garage and do some more stuff because like you guys got me charged.
Yeah, there's only 9 minutes left to the session anyway.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.
Likewise.
We'll be
Yes.
talking.
Please text me anytime you want to come on, man. Anything you got something new popping, let me know. We'll get you in.
We'll do. And Ray, always a pleasure as always. So
Once we get back in our regular studio, we'll be broadcasting remotely again. We can't take calls right now, but yeah,
Okay.
we'll get you back in again. I'll be in touch on a Saturday night.
We'll
Hey, we do tomorrow morning.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We always do. We always do. You know where to find
Absolutely.
me. So,
Yeah.
all right, gentlemen, take care. Thank you, everybody listening.
You
All right,
too. All right,
Good night.
thanks, people.
Be safe.